Just for a second, stop and think about all the economic activity that's happening around us right now. From a farmer harvesting cotton, to a factory spinning it into a shirt, to the person who delivers that shirt right to your house. It's this huge, incredibly complex dance that never stops.
Yeah, it's a giant web. You've got people pulling raw materials out of the earth, other people turning those materials into actual products, and then a whole other group of people in offices and shops supporting the entire system. And it's all happening at the same time every single minute of every day.
So how in the world do you even begin to make sense of that much chaos? How do you measure it, or track it, or figure out where it's all going? Well, it turns out economists have a pretty clever way to get started.
The secret is, you don't try to look at everything at once. You group it. All that incredible activity can actually be sorted into just 3 big buckets. Economists call them sectors, and this is our first step to getting a handle on the whole picture.
Okay, bucket number 1 is the primary sector. This is where it all begins. It's basically anything that involves taking stuff directly from nature. So we're talking about farming, fishing, forestry, mining. This is the absolute bedrock of the economy, providing the raw materials for literally everything else.
All right, so once we have those raw materials, they go to the next stop, the secondary sector. You can just think of this as the making stuff sector. It's also called the industrial sector. This is where we take that cotton and turn it into cloth, or take iron ore and make steel. It's all about manufacturing and transformation.
And finally, our third bucket is the tertiary sector. Now, this one's a little different. It doesn't make a physical thing you can hold. Instead, it provides services. We're talking about everything from transportation and banking to trade, and even the work of doctors, teachers, and software engineers. It's the sector that helps the other two run smoothly.
So, here's the super simple way to remember it. The primary and secondary sectors, they produce goods, actual stuff you can touch. The tertiary sector, it generates services, things people do for you and for each other. That's really the core difference.
Okay, so we've got our 3 buckets. Simple enough, right? But this is where things get really interesting. When we start putting numbers to these sectors in India's economy, a huge, fascinating puzzle starts to take shape.
But wait a minute. How do you even do that? How do you measure an entire economy's output? I mean, you can't just add 10,000 coconuts to 500 cars and a few million lines of code, right? The numbers wouldn't mean anything. So what's the trick?
Well, the whole secret is about avoiding counting the same thing over and over again. Let's just follow the journey of a simple biscuit. A farmer sells wheat to a flour mill. Then the mill sells flour to a biscuit company. That wheat and flour are what we call intermediate goods. They aren't the finished product yet. To measure the economy accurately, we only count the value of the final good. In this case, the actual packet of biscuits you buy at the store. Why? Because the price of that packet already includes the value of the wheat and the flour, so we don't count them twice. And when you add up the value of all these final goods and services across the country, you get a measure called gross value added, or GVA.
So when we use this method to look at India's economy over the past 40 years, the result is just, wow, it's staggering. The total production has absolutely skyrocketed. The Indian economy today is just on a completely different planet compared to where it was in the late 70s.
But where did most of that explosive growth come from? The service sector, by a long shot. It now makes up over half of India's entire economy. Meanwhile, agriculture's share has shrunk way down to about 15%. This kind of major shift is a textbook sign of a modernizing economy.
So this all sounds like a classic success story, doesn't it? But there's a pretty big catch. I mean, if the service sector is generating most of the country's wealth, you'd probably expect it to be creating most of the jobs too, right? And this is the puzzle. The primary sector, remember the one contributing just 15% to the economy? It still employs a massive 44% of the workforce. And the booming service sector? It employs far fewer people. The economic output and the employment numbers are telling 2 completely different stories. What is going on here? To solve this puzzle, we have to look past the headline numbers and really understand a concept that economists call hidden or disguised unemployment.
And this quote just nails the problem perfectly. There are more people working in agriculture than are actually needed. Think about that for a second. It means you could literally move some people off the farms, and the total amount of food grown wouldn't even change.
This is exactly what disguised unemployment is. It's when people look like they're employed, they're busy, they're working, but their actual contribution is tiny or even zero.
They're not being lazy, there just isn't enough productive work for everyone to do.
Now, I know that sounds a little abstract, so let's make it real. Let's talk about the story of a small farmer named Lakshmi, because her situation explains this whole idea perfectly.
Okay, so Lakshmi's family of 5 all work together on their small plot of land. They do this because they don't really have other job opportunities. So everyone is busy, but in reality, the work could easily be done by just 3 people. So if 2 of them got jobs in a nearby factory, the farm's output wouldn't drop at all, but the family's total income would go way up. That right there is disguised unemployment in action.
Lakshmi's story really brings us back to the central imbalance in the Indian economy. You have the primary sector supporting almost half the workforce on just 15% of the economic pie. At the same time, the industrial and service sectors, which make up a massive 85% of the economy, only provide jobs for about half the population. It's totally out of whack.
So what does this all mean for the future? Well, this mismatch between where the economic value is being created and where the people are actually working has huge implications for India's path forward.
The takeaway is crystal clear. The key to boosting incomes and unlocking the potential of millions of people is to create many, many more productive jobs in the industrial and service sectors. We need jobs that can absorb all that surplus labor from agriculture, just like the 2 members of Lakshmi's family finding work elsewhere.
And that leaves us with the big defining question. We know India's economy is one of the fastest growing in the world, but is it the right kind of growth? Will it be the kind of growth that creates enough good, quality jobs to finally solve this hidden puzzle and unlock the full potential of its incredible workforce? The answer to that will define India's story for decades to come.